Hi, Dr. K. Thank you so much for being here with us on the podcast today.
Oh, Sarah, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
So tell us about you. Where do you live? What do you like to do? What's your favorite food?
Oh my goodness, all the fun questions right off the bat. So let's see, I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was actually a military brat, believe it or not. So I spent a lot of my time in Detroit, Michigan. Of course, moved back down south, North Carolina, where both of my parents' parents are from. So I've been here for a while. Oh my goodness, what do I love to do? One thing I absolutely love to do, no judgment, Sarah, do not judge me.
I bet I won't.
Is I love, love, love to dance, and I love music. And to be honest with you, that's part of my self-care, where in the morning it is a complete dance party. So just like this morning, it was a Mark Anthony dance party.
Oh, I like it.
Let's see, when it comes to my favorite food,
Hold on,
again,
I'm not going to let you move on from that.
oh, wait a minute. Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so dancing, like I have zero coordination whatsoever. I have to assume you maybe have like a background in dancing or something.
Well, this is so funny. So growing up, I did dance. I was a dancer growing up. I was a cheerleader growing up. I was a cheerleader, through school, all that good stuff. And it's so funny because, of course, I think I can break it all the way down. And then my sister is like, oh my God, you dance on 8 counts. She was like, you're on the dance for like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And I'm like, whatever, girl, I look good.
Like,
out
at
here.
least you recognize the 8 count though, so it can't be that foreign, right?
Exactly.
Sisters are our best friend and sometimes our worst critic. What's the age difference in you and your sister?
Almost 2 years. So she keeps me very honest.
Okay. Younger or older?
Older.
Older. Okay. Yeah. I have both of my sisters are right at about 3.5, 4 years on both sides of me. And
Oh, nice.
we all do that for each other.
So you're in the middle.
Yeah. But yeah, not so much dancing for me, but we are singing fools in my house, much to my kids' chagrin. We sing in the shower. We sing in the grocery store. We always have a song to sing. So I'm here for the dancing, singing party for sure.
See, well, we can be a complete band by ourselves. I'll be like backup. You will be front and center singing. We have a whole show to put on.
I don't know anybody would pay to see that.
Let's stick to our day jobs. Okay, fair.
All right. Move on. What were you saying? What's your favorite food?
Okay, my favorite food. Okay, I'm going to be like extra again. So I love Cold Stone ice cream. It has to be sweet or French vanilla with extra Heath bar and toasted almonds with caramel drizzle. That's the whole thing, right?
I'm here for that.
Oh my goodness.
That's its own self-care in a bowl.
Yes.
Serve it up.
Now, I try not to use that, of course, as like my stress eating, but nonetheless, it is definitely a treat for me.
I love it. So you work in mental health care for corporate. What took you that direction? What made you decide, or what series of things kind of led you on the path doing that?
Oh, yeah. There's actually 2 big things. I think the first one is my own bout with mental health. And it's so funny because it was like, is this really happening to me? But I'll never forget it. It was 2003 and we were having a huge celebration at my grandparents' house. And of course, everybody was arriving. You could, smell the food on the grill. You could hear the food or the music in the background. And it was just a grand time. And my favorite uncle arrived. And when he arrived, he had his motorcycle. So I was like, fun. Oh yeah, I'm about to ride the motorcycle with my favorite uncle.
That's the cool uncle that comes.
Yeah, he's totally the cool uncle. So I hopped on the back of the bike and, we were riding around town, just having a grand time, stopping and talking to people in such a small town. And I remember going back by my grandmother's house and my mom came out to the side of the road. And so we stopped and she said, you better slow down with my baby on the back of that bike. And I was like, Mom, I'm grown. Like, I got this. And my uncle looked at her and he was like, sis, we're good. And we took off again, having a grand time. But this time, something happened. The bike went one way, my uncle went one way, and I went another. But I just remember rolling and trying to stop myself. And I just continued to roll like a runaway basketball. And when I came to a stop and I was looking up at the Carolina blue skies, I thought, I'm about to die.
I'm not okay.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't okay. And so I remember the ambulance coming and rushing me to the emergency room and tearing off my clothes and running all types of tests. And I had such severe road burn that it tore through skin, it tore through tendons, it tore through muscles. And when I was finally able to leave the hospital, I had bandages everywhere where I look like a mummy.
Oh my goodness.
And when I finally got home, I realized I can't walk. I can't comb my hair. I can't brush my teeth. Those basic activities of daily living were gone.
And those are what, from my experience, not a tragic accident like that, but my experience, it kind of took me down a similar road of checking myself and my thought processes in that mental health. Mine was Bell's palsy. And suddenly, in one moment, half of my face was paralyzed, and it was only this much of my body, well, that much. But yeah, and it's the basic things: the ability to form a word, the ability to brush your teeth. And for me, I had to tape my eye shut when I slept because I didn't have the muscle to close my eye all the way, and it would dry out in the middle of the night. And so, I can't imagine on the scale of that size of an accident. That is it's almost not the major injury, but it's the inability to just do those basic things that you're used to being able to do without a thought.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was during that time where I started to realize, like, again, I'm not okay. Like, from the time of the accident, I knew something wasn't okay, but then mentally and emotionally, I started to realize I'm not okay. I also ended up, I say losing my job, but in a sense, I was working at a grant funded position for a government. And as you know, when it's grant funded, if you don't use the money, you lose the money. You got it, girlfriend. And so I'll never forget, my supervisor called and, she did all the pleasantries of, hey, Kennette, how's it going? Wishing you well. And then the conversation switched and you knew it was something. And she said, we have that grant funded position. And I was just wondering if you're okay if we reallocate the funds, which i.e. meant if you say yes, you no longer have a job. And of course I said yes.
Yeah. Knowing where you were at that time.
Absolutely.
So in the position you're in, you had just had this major accident, and then you were in the position of having to make the hard choice of, we're going to let this funding go. We're going to let this project go. And that had to be gut wrenching, because the driven person that I can tell you are, you want to say, oh, no, I can do it all. I can
totally.
I don't have to be able to move or care
I can
for
work
myself
like this.
Sure.
Oh my goodness. And then it just things just started to happen where I had to end up living with my parents for almost 6 months because I wasn't able to care for myself. And so, bless my parents' heart, who I love to death, they ended up working out their schedule. So someone was consistently home with me. Like, shout out to my mom and dad.
And how old were you at this time?
I was in my early 20s at this time.
Okay. So just really feeling that independence. And then,
it was snatched from me in a blink of an eye. And then I started to realize, like, I am not okay. And it was in those moments that I realized my anxiety levels had increased. Like, even from hearing a car go by or hearing a muffler go by, the anxiety and that post-traumatic stress that you start to feel. And then, of course, the depression of not being able to do anything and feeling so helpless and hopeless.
Yeah.
And I was like, this can't be happening to me. You see, I had heard
and where's
this happening.
The end? When does this?
Yeah. I heard it happening to other people, but it couldn't be me. I knew that 1 in 5 people had a mental health issue, but surely it could not and would not be me.
I'm number 5, it's
Yeah, it's like that's me. And I was like, my goodness. And as you start to talk to people about the challenges that you're having, you do feel some sense of being ashamed of all the stigmas that come with mental health around it. And yes, this was a situational issue, but even when we go through those situations, whether it's a car accident, a motorcycle accident, whether it's a divorce, whether it's folding your business and going bankrupt, whatever that event is for you, there's those life events and these emotions and feelings that go along with it. And because we feel so ashamed, we don't want to say anything. And so I knew it was time for me to start having those unashamed conversations about mental health. And I often like to say, mental health needs more sunlight, more candor, and more unashamed conversations.
Yeah. I think in the conversations, people will try to be everybody's well-intended. I don't think anybody enters as the second person in those conversations with ill intent, but especially empathetic people will kind of feel a little bit of your pain, and that hurts. And so they want to fix it.
Yes.
And that's where it feels less and less safe to have those conversations, because you enter into them and they want to, the other person will minimize or try to throw a fix at you or try to tell you something that'll fix it real quick. And I don't think they're meaning to minimize, but I think they're trying to make themselves feel better, because that empathy hurts.
The empathy hurts, and they have no clue what to say. And they're just doing the best that they can. And sometimes the best that they can doesn't always feel the best to us.
Yeah. So your mission was, we're going to make this more normal.
Yes, let's make it normal, because, whether it's a chronic mental illness where you've been suffering with it for years and years and years, or again, whether it's a situational thing due to a life event that has happened to you, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And so that was the beginning of my mission to, again, start those unashamed conversations, not just with individuals, not just with friends and family, but let's spread the message even larger than that, even to the workforce. And, whether you're an entrepreneur or, you're working for a corporation or a company, it's time to have these conversations.
Yeah. And I think both of those people that you just described, the entrepreneur or the professional in a corporate setting, you have your own isolation and loneliness around it, because either you're the entrepreneur and who do you go to? You do everything by yourself.
Yeah.
Or you're in a place that your career growth matters. And by being vulnerable and being real about this stuff, what is that going to mean?
Absolutely.
Your career growth. And I think same for an entrepreneur. What's that going to be for my business growth if anybody finds out? It becomes a secret. So how did young 20s you, with this realization that not only were you going through this and you needed this help, I bet everybody else does too. How did you transition that to how you're helping people now?
It was really about being intentional. And I'll say this, I always had a passion for mental health and bringing awareness to mental health, having a private practice. So I eventually transitioned to doing a private practice where I saw individuals there to help support them through these issues. And then I was like, okay, the message is even bigger, because if you think about it, we spend majority of our waking hours working. So again, whether that's working for us or working for someone else, that's where we spend majority of our hours. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I want to make an even larger impact. And so one way I can do that is in the workforce. And then unfortunately, I'll never forget it. It was a Friday morning. And, when it's Friday morning and you're going into the office and you're counting down the hours until it's the official weekend, you're like, yes, honey. I was ready to dance. I was ready to have another dance party. And I'm sure it was you.
I had my morning dance party, but it's Friday afternoon dance party time.
Totally. And so, I go into the office, and I'll never forget, I had a manager reach out to me, and she's like, hey, do you have a moment? And of course, being the type of day it is, you're running from one meeting to the next meeting to the next meeting. And before you realize it,
sure.
And so I reached out, I told her, is it an emergency? And she said, no, it's not an emergency. I said, no problem. I'll get back with you as soon as I can. Well, when I finally was like, oh crap, I need to, get back with her, I said, hey, what's up? And she says, I'm concerned because, I have this employee who called me on Wednesday and said that she wasn't feeling well, and that, she would come in later on that day when she started feeling better. And she said that never happened, but I didn't think much of it, because she said later that day, and if she felt better. And then she said, and then Thursday came and she was a no call, no show, which she said was really interesting and weird, because she knew this employee loved her job. Yeah. And now it was Friday morning, right?
Right. So we're 2 days in, like, something's off with this person. What's
up? So she was like, what should I do? Like, I'm getting worried. Like, we called her, we texted her, we're not getting a response. And she said, so I got in contact with someone else. HR gave me her emergency contact. We reached out to her, which happened to be her sister. We called her sister, and her sister was like, come to think about it, I haven't heard from her since like Tuesday. So that's even an extra day. She said, but no worries. I'll get in contact with my sister. All is well. Well, the next call we received was from her sister. And her sister said she's committed suicide And she left a note.
Oh my God.
Just heart-wrenching. And, and when I was talking to this particular manager, she started to sob and sob. And she said, Kennette, I should have known. I should have known when she was a no call, no show. I should have known when we were going around giving quotes about our favorite quotes. Hers was about death. I should have known when she wanted to work on weekends. She was like, I should have known, but I didn't know what to do and what to say.
Wow.
And it was at that moment where I was like, oh, yeah. And I was like, you can't blame yourself, but think about it. You start to want to blame yourself because you feel like you saw all the signs, but you were ashamed of what to say. You didn't want to step on anyone's toes.
You don't want to break a privacy trust.
Yes.
And, I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer, but how heavy and how, looking back doesn't change that tragic situation. But for you, I'm sure it was, how do we look forward? And
yeah, absolutely. So it's like, how do we look forward is we need to bring more awareness to entrepreneurs, to business owners, to corporations about how do you have these unashamed conversations? How do you train your managers to be able to recognize and respond when you see something doesn't seem right or seems a little off? Like, instead of not saying something, I would encourage someone to say something, anything. Just let that person, just say anything, because then it's going to let that person know that you've recognized and that you're aware and that you're there for support. And like you said earlier, it may not be the right thing that you're saying, but at least you said something.
When each individual's an individual, for one person, the right thing to say to them may not be for the next one. And, that's okay. But I'm sure, like you're saying, that, reaching out, letting them know you notice, you're concerned, and you care.
Yeah. So then she became another 1 in 5, but at the opposite end of the spectrum.
Wow. That's so sad.
Yeah. Very sad. And so again, I'm on a mission to impact lives, to talk about the importance of mental health, not only just mental health, but stress. Because if you think about it, stress that goes unaddressed leads to anxiety and depression, which are the 2 most common mental illnesses. And how many of us have been or are stressed? Oh my goodness. All the hands in the air, wave them like you just don't care.
I'm sitting on mine.
And so all of us experience stress, every single last one of us. Some of it's good stress, some of it's, not so great stress. But what do we do when we experience that stress? The main thing is addressing it so it doesn't turn into anxiety and depression that leads to other things on the spectrum.
Yeah. And I've heard you say this before, I think probably in one of your Wellbeing Wednesdays. When you and I first were introduced, I binged your.
Oh my gosh, too funny.
I binged your messages. I was like, oh, yes,
you're awesome.
Oh my God, this one. So, but I think you had said something about kind of recognizing that line of good stress and when it's leading to anxiety and depression, because the people I work with are still proud of their stress.
Oh, my girlfriend, this is a whole another topic. Let's go there.
Let's go there, because I was one of them too. And that's why I recognize it. That's why I'm able to help it, because the people I'm working with, we're trying to do strategy and scale their business and improve their profit margins. But what I see in those owner operators of the business is they are running non-stop.
Oh my God. And it's unsustainable.
It's unsustainable, and they're proud of it. And the fact that they're doing something that is unsustainable for anybody else, is a feat and an accomplishment.
Totally.
And that's where I've kind of tried to break down, take myself back to where I used to be and break that down, because at any of those moments that people would be like, girl, take a break.
Yeah. Please.
When did you go on vacation last time?
2 years ago.
When did you take a day off the last time? I didn't see that as, I see problematic behavior and I want to help you. I thought I just received a compliment.
Like, woohoo!
Thank you.
Totally. Babe, he told me I was totally awesome today. That's not what he said.
Right. He told me I'm like the best entrepreneur he's ever met.
I never take time
And he's
off.
like, I'm worried about you. You seem exhausted. I know.
Like,
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it.
So how do we get in their brains? How do we, and I think it's exactly what you're talking about. You know, maybe I answered my question in the question. It's making this normal, that is not normal anymore, that unsustainable work, that unsustainable stress isn't a badge of honor. It's nothing to brag about. It's actually some concerning behaviors that lead to really scary mental health situations.
Oh my goodness. Like, I just want to like high five you for touching on this right now. Like, seriously. Because like you said, I think many people wear it as a badge of honor, exactly like you said, where they're like, oh, I'm so busy. Like, oh my goodness, let me run down my day. Let me tell you all the things that I'm doing they have no systems in place. I know you know all about this, Sarah. And they're proud of it. And it's like, okay, so you'd rather be busy than productive. But then I think the other part of it is some individuals are walking, like, I'll say this, high achievers, they are covering it up as a high achiever, but technically it's really anxiety. And so like, how do you know the difference between being a high achiever versus having this anxiety? But no, we're like, nope, I'm going to be to all my meetings on time. I'm going to be the first one done. I'm going to have these perfectionist mentalities. And so you list all these things and call it something else versus what it really is.
It's the behaviors of anxiety. If I slow down, I have to get in my own head for a second. And that's a scary place to be.
Absolutely. Wow. And, you know, an example that I typically give people is think about your cell phone. I don't know about you, but I pretty much have mine most of the time. It's pretty, she's like, oh, see, girlfriend, she's like, I got this and I got this and I got this. Like, you know, think about it. I can think of times where I have left the house. Maybe it's because I'm traveling on vacation. Well, not now since COVID, but nonetheless, pre-COVID. And I would have my cell phone with me and I would realize like, oh no, I left my charger back at the hotel and I've been out all day and my phone charger and my battery life is at like 10%. And I start freaking out and I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to find a station. I need to find a station to plug this up. Does anyone have a charger I can borrow? Like you're doing all these things to figure out how do I get battery life back to my cell phone? But why don't we have that same mentality for ourselves? Where think about this, we like mind blown. So listen to this. So just imagine that every day, not even every day, but on this first day we start this, we're going to be at 100% battery life. And we go, and we give to everything in our business and we're doing all the things we give to everybody else. We never stop to do anything for us. And then finally, when we lay down at night, we're at like -20.
Yeah.
So when you wake up the next day, you're not at 100% again, you're at 80. And then you do the same thing again on that same day. You go to bed. Yeah.
I actually have a new tool that literally tracks it.
Really?
It's a fitness tracker that I use, but it actually literally tracks your body's recovery. And I don't have to, I'm not sponsored, so I'm not trying to
like, never mind.
Commercial. But essentially, like between your heart rate and your respiratory rate and all of that, it has really good data.
Oh, that's awesome.
Literally in the morning will tell you what percentage you're recovered from the day before. And I'll tell you the mental health aspect is factored in. Even though you don't tell it how you're feeling.
Yeah.
It's definitely factored in because I can see the percentages.
Oh my goodness.
And it's like, whoa, my husband had a rough, just stress week, nothing crazy, but a rough stress week where he wasn't sleeping that great, had extra anxiety. And he was like waking up at 30%. Like his watch told him he was at 30%. And it's like you're saying, what if we looked at that and we're like, whoa, I need to charge more for me to really perform my best.
Absolutely.
I need to not be getting out of rest at only 30%.
Exactly. So just think about how crazy that sounds where we're more concerned with charging our phone than recharging ourselves. And, you know, of course, when we're not recharged, it eventually leads to burnout, whether it's in our businesses or whether it's, you know, where we're working in the corporations that we're working for. And I often say it's not that we're giving too much of ourselves, like, oh my God, I'm just giving way too much. It's that we're giving something that we don't even possess at that point.
That is what you said also on my binge.
They're like,
say it one more time. Say it again.
Yes. And so many times where it's like, oh, we're giving too much of ourselves. We're giving too much or we're doing too much. So we're giving too much of ourselves. But that's not the reality. The reality is we're trying to give something in which we do not even possess.
We don't have it. We're taking energy credit
Right.
from the bank that doesn't exist.
Amen. Amen, sister. Amen, sister. Yes. Crazy, right? And so when you put it into perspective like that, it just reminds you of how important it is to take care of your mental health, to take care of your mental well-being, because it's not something you can always see. Like a physical ailment, like if I was walking around with a broke arm and it was dangling, you'd be like, girlfriend, I'm going to need you to
you need to take care of that.
Right, please.
And
now
you wouldn't
go.
be like, don't you like my broken arm? Thank you.
Right. It's like, you're like, no, go take care of that.
No, that's weird. Do something about that.
That is funny. But then, when we're walking around with the stressors that we can't always see, and we try to hide with our beautiful makeup and our lipstick and all of our cute clothes. I know. Trust me. I've been there too, Sarah. So I'm talking from experience.
No, I'm good. I'm good today, though. I woke up a solid 90-something%.
Yes, so yeah, it's important that we just are mindful and that we continue to monitor our mental health and our well-being, and that we take care of ourselves.
And, I said, kind of like we mentioned, I think it's a culture shift. It's where it's not cool to be burnout anymore. Nobody else looks at that, and nobody else receives that as, yeah, I'm winning.
You go, girl.
Yeah. It's no, I'm worried.
Yeah.
And that's something I mentioned to entrepreneurs is when you're hearing those things, it's not cool anymore. It's not even something we're working towards. We're there.
Yeah.
It's not a badge of honor anymore. People know better now. And if you're not there yet, that's okay. There's no shame.
That's okay. Absolutely.
We all have to start somewhere. But when you're starting to hear those messages from other people, if somebody else is noticing enough to say, hey, how many hours did you work this week? You've been here nonstop.
Yeah.
Girl, you need to take a break.
Yeah.
Don't take that as a compliment. Take that message as someone else is noticing I'm burning out. And if it's someone within your team, if it's a customer, if it's anybody having anything to do with your business at all, the other thing to keep in mind is, again, they're not complimenting you.
Right.
And they notice problematic behavior that, especially in business, they're not going to trust the quality of your work.
No.
They're not. They're not going to want to bother you. Even if it's not a lack of trust, that's when you'll hear people say, oh, I didn't want to bother you. If somebody's emailing you as a customer and saying, sorry to bother you, that's okay, what message should I send that they're not wanting to bother me with their money?
Absolutely. And it's so interesting because I remember working for a global company. And so, of course, when you're global, you could be constantly connected. And I remember I first started working there and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do all the things. I'm going to respond to all my emails. And so, of course, India's working and like, bing. And I'd be like, I'm going to respond. And so
now it's noon in India. Now it's noon
I'm still working. And like you said, I burned myself out and I was thinking like, oh, they're going to see I'm doing all this work. They're going to be like, oh yeah, she's an amazing employee. She's phenomenal. No, it doesn't work that way, guys. It doesn't work that way. And I remember listening to your episode when you were talking about how stressed that you came out when you were in your practice and how you were just running ragged and doing all the things.
Yeah. And it's not a good look. And people do get wise to it. And whether it's your corporate employer or your customer, they're going to realize if you're serving from an empty cup, if you're spent, if you're now trying to take energy credit, you're serving them sludge. Like there's nothing, you don't have anything good left to give.
I don't want that.
You're giving them some nasty sludge that's like
gross,
crusted at the bottom of your coffee cup from a week ago because
I'll pass.
You haven't even rinsed your coffee cup out.
Oh, gross. Yeah, I'll pass. But see, when you put it into perspective like that, Sarah, it's kind of like, ooh, maybe I need to reevaluate what's going on.
Yeah. And that's what I want everyone doing. I want everyone to meet people like you, have these resources and start doing the little things they need to do to change what they believe about working so hard. Like you said, you believed if you worked every time zone, you were going to be viewed as employee of the year.
Right.
I believed, similarly, when we first started our law firm, our marketing tactic was, you'll love this. We had a separate cell phone. We were available 24/7 for legal questions.
Oh my goodness. Jackpot, baby.
There were two of us.
Horrible.
That's insane.
And you're like, yeah, totally. Sign me up.
And bottom line is, you do not want to hear what I have to say to you at 3:00 in the morning.
No thanks.
When you call me, I am not nice.
I'll pass.
And so, there's those belief systems. I've kind of gotten it broken down into 5 distinct personality types that kind of lead to the belief systems of burning out. Mm-hmm. But then another one is, maybe you believe that about the value, other people seeing that as valuable. Maybe you believe that you're not valuable if you're not burnt out. If you haven't given more than you have to give, then you haven't earned your worth. You haven't earned your success.
Right.
Another one would be people who have somebody they admire. Maybe your grandparent is somebody you really, really admired in the business that they built or the work that they did. And without seeing the whole picture, you saw that they worked 12, 16-hour days. And because you loved and admired them so much, you think that you have to match those behaviors.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
To be equally as admirable. So there's a handful of things, and we all have our different life and belief systems that lead us there. But I think the bottom line right now is, if you're doing that, it's not healthy. It's not your best quality work.
You got it.
Like you're telling us, Dr. K, it's going to lead to anxiety and depression and significant mental health issues.
Yes.
And we need to start changing those belief systems.
You got to
figure out what yours is.
Yep.
Really dive in. What do I really believe about this work that I'm doing and why it's what I need to do? And is that true? Is it really true for me?
Right.
And I feel like it's probably no.
It's really about rewiring the mindset, because think about it. These behaviors that we've been doing, we've probably been doing them for a while. They just did not start last night or on Monday. Like, they've been happening for a while. So it's a complete rewire of our mindset. And I think the first step really comes with, of course, after you acknowledge and become aware of it, it's about being intentional of what you plan on doing. And again, that plan's going to look different from everyone, but being intentional about it. And one thing that I like to end my days with every day, before I go to bed, I end my day with, saying, first of all, what are at least 3 things you're grateful for? What are at least 3 things you're grateful for? And then I ask myself, Kennette, how are you feeling? And that's emotionally, mentally, and physically. And then lastly, I ask myself, what thoughts are you having, girlfriend? I'm like, girlfriend, what thoughts are you having? Because as much as we want to pretend like they're all roses and beautiful things, they're not always. And we're going to have those negative thoughts. I mean, the crazy part is we have, 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts per day, and 80% of those are negative. 80% of those thoughts are negative. Crazy, mind blown again, 2 times in one session, but mind blown again. And so I have to ask myself.
Like, if now I want to call myself out, I want to be like, what have you been thinking?
Yeah. And I totally do it, because if there are those negative thoughts that I'm having, they're going to have an impact on your overall mental health. And so it's about recognizing this and then changing those as quickly as you can. So that's how I like to end my day.
And I love that you're saying end your day, because I think there is legitimately something to starting your day, with meditation, journaling, some kind of reflection to start your day. But if you do it also at the end of the day, I feel like you got to be honest.
Yeah. It's like, okay, sit down, let's self-reflect. And so for me, it's like the dance party in the morning, like, hey, let's get this party started. And then it's at the end of the day, it's like, okay, now let's be honest with yourself so we can get up and have that dance party again tomorrow.
Wow. I feel like there's probably plenty of times that you're like, how are you feeling? And you're like, oh, I don't know. I'm okay. And then what were you thinking today?
Totally.
Maybe we need to say this out loud to ourselves, not just like in our mind, not just like written in a journal, but like out loud, look in the mirror.
Yeah. And, I know when I've had a challenging day, because I feel like those are the days where I will indeed, look in the mirror and ask myself those questions. Whereas other times it might just be sitting on the edge of the bed and it's like, okay, I'm about to go to bed. Let's ask myself these questions. But those days where I know it's been a little bit of a challenging day or a lot of a challenging day, I'm like, girlfriend, let's talk. Let's talk. Beautiful. So how do you really feel? And I'm like, And I'm like, honey, I don't feel good. It's like, okay, let's talk.
It's almost like your big sister spirit comes in and sits with you and you just have this whole, wow. So go through those one more time, because I think we all need to, like, tonight, start this in our practice. So what are we asking ourselves again? One?
Yeah. So the first thing we do is, what are 3 things I'm grateful for today? And if you have more than 3, list all 3, but at least what are 3? At least 3. So what are those 3 things that I'm grateful for?
And that must be huge just after a long day, just after a stressful day. It's like, wait, I'm still grateful for things today.
Exactly. Because how many times we say, oh my God, I had a totally bad day. My life is ruined. And it's like, no. There was 10 minutes of your day that were bad. So what are you grateful for? Yeah. So that's the first thing. The second thing, it's asking yourself, what thoughts am I having? And it's about being real, raw, and honest with yourself. So what thoughts am I having?
I'm thinking life is great and I just love everything. Maybe, hopefully some days, but getting real.
But every day is not like that. And then the last thing I like to ask myself is, how are you feeling? And again, that's emotionally, mentally, and physically. And it's so interesting when I said that, Sarah, I just saw you kind of take a sigh of breath, like, And that's honestly how I feel at the end of the day. It's kind of like you ask yourself and answer those questions. And it's like a relief of like, it's almost like releasing it as you go versus embracing it and holding on to it for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And holding on to thoughts that, you had, and they served you in the moment, but they don't need to carry into tomorrow. They don't need to carry into your restoration.
No, we're done. I'm done with you, boo.
Okay. So I know I had mentioned it. Tell everybody where they can listen to your Wellbeing Wednesday.
Oh my goodness. So if the
they
audience
are
was
gold,
the audience,
log on and binge Wellbeing Wednesday. It doesn't matter what day it is.
And they are so much fun. I enjoy just recording them because I'm probably talking to myself most of the time, or they're coming from real life experience. But nonetheless, on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn, individuals can follow me at Well Trust Partners or Dr. Kennette Thigpen. So either one of those, Instagram, Facebook would be Well Trust Partners. On LinkedIn would be Dr. Kennette Thigpen. So go check them out.
Excellent. I will make sure they are all in the show notes. We appreciate you being on the podcast so much. And I have a feeling that you'll be back again. I bet there's more for us to talk about.
Sarah, I would love to. So anytime, just hit me up, girl.
That sounds great.